We're attempting to complete the Land's End to John O'Groats Cycling Challenge, using mostly wild camping. In the last few episodes we've crossed England and Wales and broken into Scotland. We also booked a van to get our bikes home, which means we only have 3 days left to reach John O'Groats. That's a tight deadline. Can this actually be done? Today started out great! We awoke in a forest, the sun was out, and Google Maps promised a mostly flat day. Interestingly enough, it didn't feel very flat when we were actually on it, but the path was home to some interesting wildlife.
So apparently there are snakes in this country.
But it's windy.
We'd been quite lucky with the wind so far. This was the first time we were really noticing it. It was definitely making up for the lost time here.
It's incredibly windy up here. But after all, it is the highest point on the cycle network.
Our mostly flat day started with a grueling climb up to the highest cycle path in Great Britain. Google Maps was just a tiny bit wrong on that one. After all that climbing, we were ready for lunch and happened across a little place called the Snack Shack. I remember telling Andy and Paul about the time I ordered a big burger in the Driffield episode of York Review, and how it was really hard to cycle after it. I was then served a fairly large burger here and made the exact same mistake again. This threw me off my game for the rest of the day. We finished our ramble through the Cairngorms, bought a meal deal in Aviemore, and had a picnic in Carbridge. And, if I'm being honest, it probably couldn't support a car. It was hard to find a camping spot along the A9, so we just ended up pitching up on a footpath which suddenly appeared. It wasn't the best spot we ever stayed at. Despite the wind, hills, and a big burger, we managed another 81 miles, taking us to mile 821. At this rate, we were on track to finish by day 14. All we had to do was keep up the pace. In the early hours of the morning, we hopped back onto the A9 and cycled up to Inverness. We were happy to be out of there. The sunny Scottish cycling was behind us, and Scotland now seemed determined to make us suffer.
Cold today. There's loads of midges. They were attacked last night. Swarming us.
For those who haven't camped in Scotland, Highland midges are tiny biting insects which descend in swarms upon unsuspecting campers. Female midges need a blood meal before they can go off to lay their eggs, and they're very good at sniffing out exposed skin. In the Highlands, mornings and evenings belong to the midges, so you need to get the tents up fast. We left Inverness on the Cystic Bridge, which warned of some difficult weather ahead.
Get ready for some strong side winds.
We definitely had to cycle single file on this one. They weren't very generous with space.
I kinda like Loch Ness a bit.
One of the rivers downstream actually connected to Loch Ness, but we didn't have time for sightseeing. We were now working to a very strict schedule. From there we pressed on to the rather significant village of Alness.
So we've just pulled into Alness, as you know. It's actually a very special moment now because we are officially less than 100 miles away from John O'Groats. 99 on the map. Very exciting times. We can actually do this. I feel like we can do this. Alness seems to be an incredibly pretty place. It's crazy.
We had a quick lunch in a place which was almost called the Hairy Cow Bakery, and after taking in the sights, we were off again to another major bridge.
I'm a hazard. There's a train going past. Oh, it's a perfect shot.
I've watched this clip back a few times, and I genuinely don't know why I said that. Had my camera become too smudged to see the train? Was it just shoddy camera work on my end? Or, after 13 days of continuous cycling, was I just starting to hallucinate trains? On the last bridge we were only warned of side winds. This time we had a second obstacle to contend with.
Oh no!
This was an interesting area. The road continued for a long time before turning into the bridge.
Oh, I'm ready for the wind. To do what?
Use the path. Use that path to your left.
Oh, that one? Yeah, I could ride on that.
After the bridge, we came across something I'd been waiting for a long time. It seemed like the end truly was in sight. This gave us all the motivation we needed to push even further, stopping to camp near Colgower.
Here we are, campsite on the last night, and there are midges absolutely everywhere. And it was like this in last night's campsite as well. It's just so awful. They can crawl through the nets, your face gets really itchy, they're biting you throughout the night. And when we woke up last night, they were still around. They're still around in the daytime. These are relentless little buggers, and they're following me around as I'm walking as well. It's not a good look. But tomorrow is the final day, and we're going to make a massive push for it. And we're in a great spot as well. We have a lovely little view of the sea here, just outside. We're near somewhere called Craig Beach, tiny town. We went a little bit past it, towards John O'Groats. And so we have a good spot. Don't think it's going to rain again. It was raining last night. All my tents are sodden, even when we put them up just now. They're still wringing, they're still dripping wet. It's going to be a rough night, but there's only one more day of cycling ahead of us, and then it's done. We are making a break for it. This is now or never. We will make it to John O'Groats.
Strong words for a man in a discount beekeeper's hat, but I was right to be optimistic. Today we had cycled 81 miles and reached mile 902. We had only 54 miles to go. We were so close. We just needed to fight the tiredness in our legs for one more day. Surely we could do this. Surely.
It's the final day. Look at that beard. I haven't shaved since I started. You know, ever since Dom left, it's been up to me to wake up Angie and Paul, and the way that I do that is very obnoxious because they're in a different tent to me, all the way across the field. And the only way I can actually do it is to just... This is what I do. This is how I wake them up. Good morning! So over the top, so cheery. They must hate it. You see, I can hear them screaming now. They're not in a good place. Alright, let's gear up and let's do this. Let's smash out the final day.
Waking up this morning turned out to be an uphill struggle, as we soon found ourselves climbing up even more Scottish hills.
We're so high up. We're supposed to be following the coastline. These Scottish hills, they're not giving us a break.
The weather was also being quite cruel. We were being hit by everything, all at once.
Hey, look, a sign. Welcome to Caithness.
Now there's been some questionable camera work in this video, but I think we can all agree that this is the best piece of footage so far.
These are horrible conditions. It's only 8:10 in the morning. We must have climbed about 800 feet in rain. It's really putting us through our paces. It's really making us earn these last 54 miles.
About an hour later, the terrain started to get flatter and the rain was starting to die down too.
This has dried up a bit.
We were also starting to get a bit more attention from the passing locals.
Friendly group, I think.
Yeah.
Is that Chicken Man? Oh, okay.
Chicken Man was a van driver we befriended in a local village. He ran an egg delivery service around here. I don't really remember meeting him though. I had to get Andy to remind me who he was. If you're watching Chicken Man, I wouldn't take it personally. I feel like we were all a bit mentally drained at this point in the journey. This area was quite remote, and we had trouble finding a village which was large enough to have an open cafe at this time in the morning. Luckily for us, we stumbled upon the conveniently positioned Lay Hay Tea Room.
About 34 miles left to go. It's bitterly cold today. I'm really glad I grew a beard for this. God, it's so cold in the north. It's so cold in Scotland. Can't believe it. Not much further now, not much further. We can do it. Let's go. Now we're in Scotland.
Eventually we arrived in Wick, the last major town on our route.
Here we go. Truly impressive milestone. This is the most northern spoons in the country.
Wick was actually key to our escape plan. We were going to camp on the return journey from John O'Groats and head back here on the morning of day 15. Here we would collect a van from Hertz, drive the bikes home, and leave the van in a local depot. Even though there were only 3 of us, we still had to use the van because there wasn't enough space on the trains to get all our bikes on at once. We only booked this van when we woke up in Edinburgh. It's important to keep some sort of flexibility in your escape plan, just in case you have any unforeseen circumstances. And so we set off from Wick. All we had to do now was find a place to camp for the return journey, and then we could embark on the final stretch.
15 miles to go. The final 15. I have so much energy. I'm so excited.
Eventually we found a perfect spot for tonight's camp. There was a small beach in an area called Stane, and we could pitch up by these rocks away from the tide. This was a beautiful spot. There was even an active lighthouse on a nearby cliff, and we'd see it blinking periodically. Now that we knew where we'd be stopping tonight, there was only one thing left to do.
I have reason to believe this hill coming up is probably the last hill of the cycle. I can see islands. I can see the northern coast. I think we're near it. I think this is it.
And so we shot off, racing towards our ultimate goal. Little did I know, something on my helmet was starting to go wrong. It's hard to believe, but here, at this point in my recording, the memory card on my helmet became full. What are the chances, after recording so much footage on this camera, that I would run out of memory here, moments before we passed into John O'Groats? Why did I have to record so much footage of bridge crossings? Luckily for this video, I knew my helmet cam was bad with audio, so I pulled out my phone to get a live reaction.
We've made it! We made it to John O'Groats!
And so, at 5:30 on the final day, we pulled into John O'Groats.
It's over. I can't believe it's finally over. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself now. 14 days of cycling across the country on a bike which probably shouldn't have been doing that sort of distance. But here we are, John O'Groats, all the way from Land's End. We've crossed an entire country. England, Scotland, Wales, done, finished. Oh, where do I go from here? I guess all that's left to do now is to finish York Review. It's done!
For those interested, here's a summary of where we stopped each day. If you want to wild camp the full thing, you may want to go around Wigan or stop just outside of Edinburgh. Maybe you even have some friends on this route who won't mind some smelly cyclists crashing for a night. After this, we cycled back to Staine, stayed the night, and vanned home the next day. But this moment, right here, this was our moment. We had successfully completed one of the most difficult cycling challenges in the UK. And even though Dom wasn't with us, he was here in spirit. This trip wouldn't have happened without him. My bike may have had a few problems in the beginning, but it got me where I needed to go. It just goes to show you don't need an expensive road bike to go on adventures. You'd be surprised by what a cheap little road/mountain hybrid can do. But you'd be even more surprised by what you can do. I'm not a former Boy Scout or professional cyclist. I didn't even do Duke of Edinburgh. I'm just some guy with a bike, a tent, and some friends. And look at what we've done. We don't know what future challenges we may face, or how they'll even turn out. But that doesn't stop us from setting our own goals today, or celebrating all the little achievements along the way. We may have been at the top of Great Britain, but for me, in this moment, it felt like I was on top of the world.